to be moving a lot faster than you've seen it move before.
Let me give me a second here to do some very rough pixel counts.
Got it.
And I think we can give some estimation here. Give me a second here.
All right, well, while you're
If I
crunching the numbers
had-
there, we're going to take a super chat question from Kaltenstein, who wants to know, would a crew starship even have something like the shuttle's flight deck? They don't need to glide it like an airliner after all. I guess, right, most of it would be autonomous, right? Do you need a flight deck?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question, because we've not seen any official internal renders other than the initial BFR days, the ITS days, where they showed a violinist floating around at like a concert, and there was nothing as control panels or anything like that. I fully expect it to be automated, just like the Polaris mission's going to be with Dragon, and like Inspiration 4 was. They obviously were trained. They could have taken over, and I'm sure there'd be somebody on board who could take over in the event of a computer malfunction. But I'm sure the progression of this will be automated. That is the future of this thing, and I don't think it'd be anything like a shuttle flight deck. I mean, Lon will know. The shuttle flight deck was like a Christmas tree of lights and controls and panels, even with a glass cockpit. It was just complete nightmare to learn all of that system. So I think it'll be along the lines of a step further from Dragon, where it's like a few computer screens. I think it'd be touchscreen screens, and that'll be it.
I was very fortunate to be able to go on a tour of Discovery's flight deck when they had that media thing going on at the at Kennedy Space Center, and it was amazing just to see how much it really looked like, you know, what you would design something in the 1960s to have. Just a lot of gauges and dials and switches, and you flew it, you know, in the atmosphere in the front, and then in the back you had your space stuff. It was very well delineated between your flight modes.
And Chris, don't forget, we have seen pictures of crews training on Starship or HLS touchscreens. They seem to be very much derived from Dragon's not only user interface, but also the physical screens themselves. So we really don't know how manual it's going to be. I would be surprised. I would not be surprised if the system was fully automated from gateway undocking to landing at the lunar South Pole. But I would imagine NASA would absolutely want manual override for all stages of flight on HLS.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a large amount of kind of derivation from Crew Dragon setup, as in literal maybe Crew Dragon seats and displays and other hardware.
We're going to have multiple starships, right? We will have crew starships. We're going to have fuel tanker starships. We'll probably have cargo starships. We'll have Starlink launching starships, right? There'll be different types of vehicles that follow the same.
We did a video on that.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna spam chat. This is where I can show off my powers of moderation by literally not having Nightbot say any problem at all about me doing this. 1 second, if I get the right chat, I'm back in Starbase.
Alex
Live.
beat you to it. Alex beat you.
Oh, there we go. Fair enough, Alex.
I wonder who wrote that video. He must be very talented.
That is a good video. I really enjoyed that video. So if you've not seen the Starship variants with Ryan hosting it and Alex wrote it, please give it a watch, especially after the stream, because it is a cracking video. It's a really good video. And it really explains the amount of versatility involved with Starship. I love this vehicle, and I'm not ashamed to say that as a journalist. You're meant to be all, you know, you're not meant to sort of like have favorites, anything like that. But I think this vehicle has so many applications, and not just in low Earth orbit. This is a beyond Earth orbit vehicle that's going to take us to Mars and beyond, that you can only root for it. There's no reason to root against it. I just don't understand, you know, why anyone would want it to fail, other than probably people who've got a problem with Elon. But again, this is about humanity, and it's an incredible amount of capability that we're bringing onto the table here.
And I tell my friends when we're talking about space, I try to talk to them as much as I can because they're not as into it as I am. That Starship is required for a moon landing to happen. It is part of the plan. Yep. And I think what's neat about Starship is that it's not designed for a single purpose. It's designed for multi-purposes, and that's good in a space vehicle, I think, especially as a species, we want to spread our wings a little bit. So it's good to have something that can help us do that. It looks like now we are over the launch mount. Am I correct in my observation here?
Looks like we are either just about over and doing alignments or pretty much over it. Now we know that they're going to be doing some minor adjustments here and there with the chopsticks, swinging it back and forth a little bit, rotating it a tiny bit to get it perfectly aligned. And then we're going to start to see the descent there. Again, that section there is likely automated, but we're going to have to get a zoom in there. And if you do a time lapse of this segment here, you'll see it start to slowly wobble a little bit as they perfectly center it over the OLM ring.
So they have a lot of ability to make some fine adjustments here, Ian, huh?
Yeah, they really do. They can swing it, forward, backwards, rotate it side to side, translate it side to side a little bit as well. Quite a bit of wiggle room, and you need something like that because this is a very, very big and expensive object, and you can't perfectly line it up every single time just using the raw chopsticks alone.
And we got some super chats piling up here, and I want to take this one first from Matt PD because I had a question about this also. First of all, I can't wait to see the jack pick in the morning sun reflecting off the RVAX through the hot staging ring. And the hot staging ring was something that I was planning to ask you folks about. Maybe we'll have Chris field this one. The hot stage ring, is it on top of the booster right now?
Yes, it is. And we're trying to work out if it's clamped on or welded on. We think it's clamped on because we saw it being raised in the Mega Bay and then installed on top of Booster 9. And before we know it, it was there. We didn't see any welding, the obvious sparks we get from the orbital launch mount. We didn't see any of that. I think it's going to be fascinating because they've done some testing with it at Macy's with the Booster 11, as it was classed as, test article, and apparently it passed and everything's gone right structurally. And that's when they went, okay, let's install Booster 9s and roll it out. It's going to be a fascinating thing. It's all about never stop thrusting, as Elon called it. He wants the idea that staging does not lose some velocity or some thrust because they can keep the booster firing with, I think, 3 engines while they're firing up Starship's engines itself, and the fire will come through those holes there, as we're looking at it right now. Literally, we'll see in a very impressive sight at staging, and that will continue on with the flight. And basically, that is the whole purpose of it, is adding more capability just for that little ring. But also, the important thing is they've raised the ship quick disconnect arm because that is now higher on the stack where Starship will be placed on it. And it is literally going to be the tallest vehicle ever because it beats the height of Boost 7 and Ship 24. It's
Right,
gone a little bit taller.
A little bit taller. And I guess with all that weight that you're trying to boost to orbit, having any stoppage of thrust is probably not as good of an idea, perhaps, than it is on lighter rockets. So it kind of eliminates some risk to just fire and keep going, right?
Yeah, I think we've got an image coming up soon on the live stream. We'll show how they've applied the changes to the ship quick disconnect arm. I'm just waiting for it to come up on the screen. I've seen the camera move towards it.
And sorry to interrupt, Chris, but I believe the booster is going down now.
Nice. It looks like it.
Got a great shot there of the ship quick disconnect there. You can see it's been mounted a little bit higher. It's been on a bit of a platform there, so it can reach the extra 2 meters higher.
I just want to spend 30 seconds on this. They literally just did that to cater for the extra height. Over at the Kennedy Space Center, Mobile Launcher 1 has different umbilical height connections with the SLS Block 1B. So rather than changing the umbilical's heights, they said, we're going to build a new Mobile Launcher 2, for Block 1B, after building the Mobile Launcher 1 for Block 1. So literally, SpaceX's solution to an $800 million new mobile launcher is to put it on a booster seat like there. I said, we'll just raise it a little bit higher on the tower that way. Probably cost them about $1,000 compared to $800 million.
Yeah.
And that actually brings up a super chat question from Debbie Lynn, who says, I remember on the full stack, the lifting cable was very close to the top. With this added ring, is that going to put it to the max? And is this correcting that problem?
Yes, literally does. That's what they've done. We saw it being taken off. They took the entire piping and plate away, leaving just the arm. And when they took that off, they added those platforms. You can see on the left-hand side, the extra platforms, and then raised it up and then put it back on. And literally, that's how they've done it. They've just basically just changed where it'll attach to the ship higher up on the entire stack.
I think here Debbie is discussing the chopsticks, the lifting mechanism, the draw works.
Oh, I was still on the ship because we disconnected.
Yeah. I think it will put them closer to their max, obviously. Obviously, it's still within their limits because they have raised it. It's about 2 meters higher, it should be. It looks like they just took an ordinary ring and just cut the openings in it. So it should be about 2 meters or so higher now. But they definitely built some margin into the tower. We've seen SpaceX and Elon talk a lot about in the future possibly stretching the ship, making the ship longer for either more payload or more propellant, maybe making the booster longer as well in the long run. So you kind of need to have that kind of flexibility in your ground support equipment. And I believe, if I recall correctly, Adrian, you can correct me on this, but I think the tower at Kennedy Space Center is a slight bit taller than the one here in Starbase. I could be misremembering, but I feel like I heard that it's one segment taller.
It's the same height as far as we know.
Okay, yeah, Alex is correct. The same height.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I want to quickly point out I did my math.
Oh, good.
And doing upwards, the booster moves at about 2 meters per 30 seconds, or 0.25 kilometers an hour.
It looks pretty quick to me.
Blazing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look how
it's
fast
like-
it's coming down.
I mean, that's still fast, right?
For something along these lines, lifting something 200 tons, a very delicate rocket, piece of rocket hardware, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's expensive too. Hey, we got a super chat here from Richard, aka Ethane Man, $100 tip. Thank you very much for your support of the efforts here from the NSF crew.
One of our regulars, by the way, one of our regulars always supporting us. Again, everybody who's in, regardless